You are listening to the Makers Church podcast. For more information about our community, please visit makerschurch.org.
I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. I'm here most of the time, but not usually up here. My name is Laurel Miller, and I am I'm the quieter half of Mr. Derek Miller. Together, we're pastors here at Makers. So I'm also known as Mommy to three little wonderful, tiny little people, energetic little people. And to them, I'm not known as so quiet, unfortunately. I wish I was. And I'm also known as a PA. I work in emergency medicine, and so I have lots of names. And moms often have a lot of names. My most recent favorite one, as Derek lovingly called me, and as Gil mentioned recently, how moms have tons of bags on them. A couple weeks ago, we were going to a baseball game, and I was loaded, and he called me a Mama Sherpa. So lately, that's my most favorite, is Mama Sherpa. And it's no joke, kids come with a lot of bags, guys, and I know there's some brand new mamas in here, like less than 2 weeks old. And so you start with the diaper bag, which is already big and loaded with things. And then as you move on, you get baseball bags, you get piano bags, soccer bags, ballet bags. Then you have more kids, so you still have the diaper bag, and it just keeps adding up. And then as they get bigger, I've been told, kids come with a lot of baggage. And so then it switches to baggage. And so I'm not so excited about that last part, so I'll take all the other Sherpa bags I can get right now to load them up. So I'm a quiet lady. I'm a PA, I'm a pastor, I'm a mom, and a Sherpa. And there are a lot of personality tests out there that can also tell you a lot about yourself. And as if I didn't need any more names and labels, I took Gallup StrengthsFinder along with a bunch of other personality tests. But Gallup StrengthsFinder is one that gives you 5 names. Has anybody taken Gallup StrengthsFinder in here? Yeah, it's been around. So the way it works is out of 32 top labels that it can give you, it gives you your top 5. So you can focus on those top 5 things and make them better. And I love that. Because it doesn't look at any of the other things, even though there's some of us in here that took it to get all 32 because you want to know everything. But you get 5 and you concentrate on those things. Give me another shout if anyone in here has achiever. See, I knew the achievers would do that because we're proud of that. So achiever is my top one, for better or for worse. And what does this mean? It means I like to progress. I like to get things done. Does it mean I like to overcome things? It means all sorts of things. But as I begin to look more into this strength, I learned more about it even over the last 8 years that I've gotten this label. And I found that it explained a lot of me really well. It's kind of like most personality tests. You read it and you're like, yes. But then parts of it had language that I just didn't like too. It's like when your friend gives you a compliment sandwich, which is when they come up and say, you are so great because fill in the blank. And then the but comes. Everything has a but. But, and then they tell you the other thing, fill in the blank. And then they come back to the other thing and say, but you really are sweet, promise. But what do you remember? You remember that middle part, the sandwich. And so that personality test, this is what it was for me too. I looked at it and achiever, the things that resonated with me was, we always start with the day as a 0. And we want to get to 100. You want to achieve things. You want to put things on a list. You want to cross them off. I even add things to my list to cross them off sometimes. I want to feel productive. I want to do well. Not necessarily competitive, but I want to win. And if I do win, I want to do it well. So Derek and I used to play tennis all the time before we had kids, pre-life. And if I beat him but I didn't do well, I was still mad because I didn't do well. And so that was the achiever in me. But then the other part comes, the sandwich. And this is what I read. It said, the other part of the description of achiever is living with a whisper of discontent. I did not like being labeled as discontent. It's ironic because I was discontent with the fact that it was telling me I was discontent. I'm not discontent, but I like to think of myself as a content person. You can throw anything at me. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to keep going with life and stay positive. But the things that I've learned over the years, watching me and watching myself go through things, is I am discontent. And I can end up in spirals of discontent so fast, like every day. And sometimes it's about the most serious things, but often it's about the most silly things too. Where should we eat? I didn't get the right thing. Or I want what he wants. Should we buy a house? Should we get a car? Should we get a van? Are the vans really worth it? Breaking news, they are. Anybody considering it? What job should I get? What person should I marry? I married them. Should I stay married? Is it worth it? Why did I get these kids instead of those kids? Why are my kids in this school? What school should I choose for them? What extra activities should I do? Are we doing the right things? Constant. And why don't I have an English accent? All week, Derek's calling us from London. I'm like, I'm discontent with our American accent. And true story, Blake was so upset all week, thinking that Derek was going to come home from London with an accent, and he wouldn't be able to understand him. Why'd you let him go, Mom? So I'm glad you came home with your Californian accent. And if I thought discontent was enough just mine, then I got married and had kids and just absorbed all of their discontent too. 2 weeks ago, our family got to go to family camp with Young Life. It was a blast. And if you guys have ever been to anything with Young Life, you know they like to get messy and dirty and yell and be loud and do weird games and things. And so we got there and it was club night number 1. Our kids have never done anything with Young Life, so they're just wide-eyed. They're singing all these songs and I get to yell and sing. And Blake's in the front row with his hands going. And Derek turns to me and he's like, I just can't get into this right now. He's tired. He didn't want to sing. He only wants to dance at home when it's The Greatest Showman on or Eminem or whatever his choices of the day. But the music stops and a leader comes up and they said, okay, we're going to do a game. And everyone cheers. And if you see your name on this screen, come down. And of course, Derek Miller and Blake Miller, first game. And so I look and I'm sure Derek's retreating to the back like he has to go do something. But it's not. He's walking towards the stage. And then I look for Blake. Where's my energetic boy? Nowhere to be found. I look in the back of the room and he's laying on the floor in the back of the auditorium, hiding, shaking. He was so nervous. So Blake, get down here. You love being in front of people. Nope, wouldn't budge. So Derek's standing up there. Everyone else has a kid. We said, Kira, why don't you go? Our 4-year-old. So she goes up, not knowing what she's getting herself into either. And they play a game, and it's super fun. And at the end of it, Derek misses an answer, so she gets to pie him in the face with shaving cream. And Blake's now back next to me, and he is just laughing uncontrollably because it's funny, and Derek ends up with shaving cream all over the place. And then another song starts, and then we're all laughing, and he's cleaning himself off. And then I realize Blake is sobbing next to me. He's so sad, to the point where I have to take him out of the room. He's just so upset. He was so upset, so discontent that he hadn't made the choice to go up on stage, that he had lost that moment, that he didn't know how fun it was going to be. And he was just too scared to do something unfamiliar in front of people that he didn't know. How often do we, all of us, refuse to step out into these situations of unknown, to take risk into something that was unfamiliar, and we watch someone else take that job, take that person, get that house, buy that minivan, and pie that dad. And what follows is self-pity, loathing, bitterness, and discontent, anger, fear. These are all the negative attributes of being discontent. And discontent is a powerful, powerful thing. Trust me, I know. I live with it, a whisper of discontent. It can be paralyzing, and it can lead to a realm of bitterness and anger and worry. And these feelings just keep lasting as long as we let them. And the longer they last, sometimes the more grief that comes with it. But it can do something else if we let it. Discontent doesn't have to be something negative. It can be something positive. It can fuel us. It can change us. It can motivate us to move in a way that is positive. Blake was so discontent that he didn't get to pie Derek that he took the initiative to ask, can I please make it up? Can there be another position where I can do this? And poor Derek, much to his dismay, they gave in and they made another opportunity for him to do that. That's not always the way it goes, though. And ultimately, we each get to choose how we handle moments of discontent. And I know this is a huge part of my personality, living with this whisper of discontent. And it's taken years, But now I'm usually able to recognize these signs of how I feel when I'm discontent. And I can trace it back and look, what was that thing that I was doing or saying, or what did I hear, what did I see that made me feel this way? And hopefully, and I have seen, the time gets shorter in between me feeling discontent and then getting to a place where it fuels me to do something positive. And that's our goal, to get to a place where we can move shorter times. Not that we're not going to completely erase discontent from us. I don't think that's possible, although we'll keep trying. And I can use this discontent to move forward. And it's the only way that I'm able to function in this crazy life that we've chosen. And in the crazy lives you guys have all chosen too, we all have stuff going on. And when we choose to step into our discontent and move forward, I think we can actually enjoy it amidst all the chaos and discontent. And we're not called to be perfect and not have discontent, but we are called to live a journey where we're striving to learn how to use that discontent in a positive way. And being discontent, sadly, doesn't happen to just us achievers. It happens to us all. And it's a human emotion. And Blake's answer came quickly. He was able to get his answer within a day. But I don't think that's where most of us are. Sometimes discontent is over years of wanting something and wondering why you, constantly comparing and coming up with the negative thoughts in your head and having to go backwards and figure out how to deal with it. Some of our discontentment comes in the form of dealing with things that are just out of our control. Relationship issues, sickness, other people's problems, money issues, and mental issues. And so how do we become people that can quickly move, once faced with any sort of discontent, into a place, into contentment, quickly, and choose it again and again? A well-known verse in the Bible is Philippians 4:11 through 13, and Paul is writing this after being in prison for years and going through many things in life that should have left him very discontent, more than any discontentment that I've ever dealt with. He writes, "For I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it was with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." And being strong in Christ doesn't change Paul's circumstance for the better at all, but it does change his response to his circumstances. And so that's the easy answer, right? We just have to be strong in Christ. That's done. All right, we know. And I know that sounds cliche, and you might have seen it on a pillow or on a tattoo before or some poster somewhere. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But it's hard. How do we get to that point where we are leaning on his strength? Because the answer is actually life-changing. There's real strength that comes from being connected to the one who created us. How do we find that? All of us, along with all of our labels, all of our discontent. And developing an approach to discontent in a healthy way can help change our response to our circumstances, just like Paul. And it's not as easy as it seems, but I've come up with 3 things that can help us kind of work through this as you face your discontent as well. 3 things that I've learned. And luckily, this whisper of discontent comes so often for me that I've been able to come up with these 3 things. Maybe you haven't been able to identify certain things that cause you discontent. But if you haven't, here's 3 ways that you can enter into your seasons of discontent too. The first is to be grateful. Philippians 4:11, again, says, "For I have learned to be content with whatever I have." Be grateful. There's a difference between discontent and ungratefulness. A healthy discontent can lead us towards a resolution. It can push us towards something positive. It can make changes in our life that we need. But ungratefulness always will lead to bitterness and jealousy. And what is a sign of ungratefulness? Complaining. I hear it all day long. All you parents do. And what do I want? I complain too. And when I catch myself complaining, I ask myself, what do I want from this? Do I just want to be heard? Is it causing negativity to those around me and those who I'm talking to? Is it inspiring change in myself in a positive way? And how am I affecting my kids who are listening to this and those around me? Even if you don't have kids, People are hearing you complain around you. What is it doing to those? Being ungrateful can rob us from the moment that we're in, and the moments that are right in front of us. And learning to choose gratitude in the midst of discontent has helped me stay rooted in what's right in front of me. It's helped me to be more present in whatever life stage that I'm in. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more or wanting things to be different, believe me, achiever. But how you go about that is the question. And let's be grateful for what we already have and what we have had in front of us that we may not have even been seeing. A theologian from the early 1900s, Harry Ironside, once said, "We would worry less if we praised more. Thanksgiving is the enemy of discontent and dissatisfaction." And when we train our brains to respond to discontent with gratefulness, which is not the normal, natural thing in our human spirit, we can rewrite the pathways that our brain goes to as soon as we're faced with discontent. Whether it's something small and silly, like not choosing the right thing on a menu, or the big things like, did I marry this right person? The big things. Being faced with sickness. If we can train our minds to automatically go to gratefulness, it's going to go there when we're faced with bigger things. I have a great friend that has been in some really big stages of discontent over the past 2 years. And I mean, like Paul, with all rights to be, everyone's like, just live in it. Be ungrateful. Live in, just live in your sorrow. It's okay to mourn. But she needed to hear a different word. And I asked her, how did you find contentment in the last 2 years? What was this like for you? She said, I had to put a reminder in my phone to go off every morning at 7 a.m. to tell me to be grateful. The only way I survived the last 2 years is to be grateful. And I had to make myself do it because this was not coming naturally. And I think that's true for a lot of us. We don't naturally come to gratitude when we're faced with discontent. And it hasn't changed her circumstances, unfortunately. But it has changed her response to the circumstance, and I think that is the bigger thing. Another very wise man named Timothy Miller, we're not related, said this about contentment: you can resent your bald spot, or you can be glad you have a head. So in that respect, that leads me into number 2, is to be confident. Bald spot or no. We need to learn to be confident in who God made us. And I am continually learning to be confident in who I was created to be, for who I am today and for who I'm becoming. As a mom, it's really easy to look for confidence in our kids. And it can be shattering to my disposition, to my discontent, when I get an email of bad behavior. It can ruin my day. And then on this flip side of things, it can be exalting and so encouraging when my kid gets stellar student or the game ball. And I'm just, my contentment hinges on how my kids are doing. And I can also remember being in my first job as a new PA 9 years ago, my first full-time job. It was awesome. And that's who I was known as. And a lot of us are known by what we do. And that's where I was finding a large part of my contentment. And years into my job, something awful happened, shattering, lost my job. It was horrible. And it left me feeling very discontent and wondering who I was, not so confident. And I wondered how did I get here? Why is my confidence in who I am as a mom or as an employee known as my job? And I've learned the hard way through these circumstances and through others that it's not about the places and spaces and positions that we're in that we should look for our confidence. I want to remind myself to look for it in the one thing that is constant. And that's God's love for me and how I was created and his never-ending, everlasting grace. And sometimes it takes a long time to get back to that thought instead of it being the first thing. Jeremiah 17:7 says, but blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. And I'm not always confident in my ability to do it right. Am I the best mom? Am I the best PA? Am I the best wife? Am I the best Sherpa? Do I always make the best choices for my kids? No way. Not even close. And if you would like an example of that, you can come over anytime this coming week during bedtime routine and see some live examples. Please join us. for lots of discontent. But even though I'm not content with my own abilities always as a mom and as all the other roles, I am content and I am confident who God has made me to be. And I'm confident that he is continually encouraging me to become the best version of myself. 2 months ago, I noticed that our sweet, precious little newborn baby girl, I was looking at her from behind and I noticed her ears were just a little bit off. I thought, is this a mom thing? Am I being too hard on it? Okay, no. So I asked Derek, take a look. I don't know. And he looked, he's like, oh yeah, they're really off. They're like a whole ear length off. So we took her into a specialist, and sure enough, they did measurements, and they said, oh, her asymmetry is double the upper limit of normal. We would recommend a helmet. It's like, oh, a helmet? Are you kidding me? And I envisioned this giant plastic, hard, horrible thing on my soft, squishy baby girl, and I was just so discontent, almost to the point of not wanting to do it. I just don't want to do it. I don't know if it's the best choice, but I don't even want to entertain if it's the best choice because I can't handle it. I can't be confident walking around with this little baby in a helmet. But we did it. We did some research and we chose it, and it's been 4 weeks of pink plastic. But she's already almost to the point of the upper limit of normal, and it's been not even, a month. And I have to say, we rock that pretty confidently now, walking around. I almost forget about it until someone makes a bad joke about her being a skier, downhill skier. What happened? She fall off a table? And no, her head was just crooked. She's working on her curve. So still have to get that painted on there, working on my curve. But we made the best choice with what we had. And it is a lot to make choices for somebody else. And Derek and I have found in parenting is, there's no worse form of discontentment than feeling like you made the wrong choice for your kid. And those are physical things. And that is not as bad as the more important things, which we are constantly asking ourselves. Are we steering our kids in the right direction? Are we showing them the best version of ourselves during areas of discontent? Are we shaping our kids and our minds to be confident in who they are in Christ? Way bigger than this helmet that's shaping her head. If you're lucky, you might get a glance at it later today after church. And the third is to be selfless. One last thing about being selfless. We need to be selfless by serving others. And this is almost synonymous as mother selfless, right? No, not always. Once you become a mom, you don't automatically become selfless, sadly. And we do a lot of serving, believe me. I run a 24/7 bed and breakfast called Hotel Miller. It serves 4 people, a dog, and countless amount of guests. I'm tired. I get it. Moms are tired, but I continually choose this, though, because this is what I've been given, and is the job of being selfless. And we're all learning to serve, whether we're mothers or not. And this is one of the greatest qualities of becoming a mother and being a human, is to have motherly characteristics of being a servant. And we can all stand to learn more of this motherly trait. And not all that become mothers, like I said, naturally become servants. We have to choose it daily, sometimes hourly, to choose to serve those around us and our kids that are responding, probably not in service yet. Hopefully, those of you with older kids remind me. Someday it'll come back, hopefully, without the other baggage. I'll just take the service. But each one of us can choose to serve others and put ourselves behind other people. And a lifestyle of mothering can lead to contentment, because that is what we are meant to live. Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." And if we are to model our lives after Jesus, always putting others first, always serving, who's the greatest among you? The servant of all. So how do we stay content? We be grateful, we be confident, and we be selfless. And we are never going to get it all right. There's always going to be something to achieve towards. But this is where I come back to the beauty of my strength achiever as well. Living with a discontent whisper has reminded me that I am on a journey of finding complete contentment and discovering the one who is complete contentment. I'm often discontent with my shortcomings as a mother and as a friend, as a human, but I've learned to use this discontent to move forward into positive ways, to shorten the time of feeling the discontent that's paralyzing. And for the past several years, I've sat next to my children at night. After they go to bed, I go in before I go to bed. I sit on the edge of their bed. And I've had this weird practice of apologizing to them for things that I might have done that day that have caused them discontent, caused me a lot of discontent. And there were things every day. And I would just tell them, I would end it by whispering close to them. I'd say, but I promise I'm going to be a better mother tomorrow. And I don't think that was a bad thing. It fueled me forward to make better choices, to become a better mom, hopefully. But as I was thinking about it, I thought this is the opposite of what Gallup StrengthsFinder did. I'm focusing on the lowest moments of the day, and I'm bringing those up at the top right before I go to bed, apologizing, and I'm focusing on the negative instead of the wonderful, beautiful things and connections that have happened that day too. And so as this year started, I thought, I'm going to do something new. And as I go in there every night when they're sleeping and they're angelic and you wonder, how was I ever mad at you all day? Every mom thinks this, and your kid's just perfect, sleeping, and can't even remember what they were like that day and what you were apologizing for. I stopped apologizing, and I started just telling them how grateful I was for them in their sleep, and then whispered how much I love them. And it has changed my attitude towards mothering instead of concentrating on those negative things. And I've come up with a new phrase when I'm talking to Jesus about mothering, and it's, I want to mother like you. Because Jesus has all of the qualities that I want as a mother. And there's no better measure for me to strive to be like. No other mother on earth for me to try to be like. And I'm enough, just as I am, to mother my kids, despite all the things that I used to apologize for. And you are enough, as you choose to step into these roles of motherhood, whether it's with your children or people around you as a lifestyle of mothering. We can all stand to hear that we're enough for those people around us. And it's even, it's impossible sometimes to think about how much we love our kids. And we all can think as mothers, I can't even believe how much I love my kids. Our friends that had baby 2 weeks ago, he just said, I just cry like 5 times a day because I'm staring at this little person, not realizing how much I could love this little person. But you know what's even more amazing is not knowing how much Jesus could love us and not being able to just wrap our mind around that he chooses us despite all of our labels, despite all of our discontent. He still chooses us, and he loves us even more than I can convey about loving my children. I don't know what season of life discontent has you guys in today, but I do know that there's another answer of deep contentment waiting to be found and waiting to be utilized. What is it that you might be dealing with that's keeping you from moving forward faster to finding that healthy discontent? For some of us, it may be that we need to stop complaining. Simple. To stop being ungrateful and to be actively grateful. Maybe it is that you need some sort of reminder on your phone like my friend had every morning that comes up, or something on your wall, or something you think of that tells you, stop, be grateful for what is right in front of you. That's not a bad thing, to set reminders to change our pathways of thinking. And for some of us, it may be that we're comparing, and it isn't leading to healthy spaces inside of our minds. And it's not making us confident in who God made us. And when we learn how to be confident in who we are and be confident in who other people have become, we can celebrate those differences in comparison, in who God has made someone else and who God has let other people be, and what they have and what we have. We can learn to be celebratory of all of it, not just of ourselves. And maybe your action step is that you spend less time on whatever platform it is that you compare. Maybe it is just visual. Maybe it's social media. Maybe we spend 10 hours a week and now you could spend 2 a week glancing on social media. If that's a negative thing for you, remove that trigger. And Derek told, we were talking with some friends a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how the grass is always greener on the other side. And that's true. But he said something that I had never heard before, and he said, it's not only that the grass is greener on the other side, it's the grass is greener where you water it. I thought, that is brilliant. How have I never heard this? And I love that, because it's exactly what we're talking about today. How can we actively move our discontent on our grass and make it more green on the grass that we currently stand on? And maybe for some of us, it's that we need to be more selfless. We need to serve somebody. And that doesn't come natural, as I said. But we have a lot of ways that you can do that here at Makers. But you also have a lot of ways that you can do that right in front of you. Your families, your workspaces, kids if you have them, other people's kids if you don't have them. Learn right now what it's like to serve, to be selfless, because take it from me, you can never learn enough before becoming a parent and a mother, and whatever that looks like for you. And just because I have kids doesn't mean that long before I had kids, I wasn't learning the art of mothering too, mothering people, mothering my friendships, mothering my coworkers around me. So you can always step into those areas of service and start looking out for others more than you look out for yourself. And maybe just some of you have never experienced this type of deep contentment that I'm talking about with a life with Jesus. And maybe some of us just haven't felt that in a long time. But some, I promise you, it's deeper than any sort of one thing that you have used to fill your discontentment with in the past that is fleeting and that leaves you unsatisfied. Having a relationship with Jesus is hard to describe. It's kind of like when someone tries to tell you what it's like being married or what it's like having your first baby. I thought I knew, and then I had my first baby 6.5 years ago, and it was unlike anything that I've experienced. Something that I couldn't relate to someone else until they were in that space with me, and then you just say, that's what it's like. That's what it's like having a relationship with Jesus too, and finding the deep contentment in Him. You can't sometimes explain it. You have to experience it for yourself firsthand. So during this last song, our prayer team is going to come forward. And if you have something that you have been struggling with discontentment-wise, because I know it's not just me, hopefully, as an achiever, come forward and talk with somebody about it. Come talk with me about it. I would love to work through that with you. And maybe you just need to tell somebody what you're grateful for, or what you're confident in, or how you're going to serve this week. And we want to be that place for you too. So I'm going to pray, and then let's just be whatever season or whatever thing you resonated with during this last song, just be in that and sit in it with your own mind as we learn to be healthily discontent, and as I learn to constantly lean into my whisper of discontent. God, I thank you for giving me a whisper of discontent, and thank you for teaching me that I can use it positively, even though, God, I know that I've used it negatively so many times. And Lord, I pray that you can be present as people are just wrestling with big things and silly things, all things and all spaces that we're in this life, God, that you can be present mentally with us as we learn to be grateful, and as we learn to be confident in who you've made us, who you've chosen us to be, and that we're enough just as we are chosen in you. And God, that as we learn to serve people, that you would show us what that feels like to be selfless and how we can experience you in that moment. God, I thank you for just your motherly attributes that you have shown me, and that you can continue to reveal that to all of us as we strive to be not only the best physical mothers to small children, but as we all strive to be motherly to those around us in our lives, God. And we thank you so much for the mothers that you've given us today. And that I thank you for the gift of motherhood that you've given me too, God, and that I would not take that lightly. In your name we pray. Amen.
You are listening to the Makers Church podcast. For more information about our community, please visit makerschurch.org.